Good afternoon, dental internet world. My name is Dr. Vishal Sharma, and I'm once again here alongside my friend and colleague, Dr. Mike Parchewski. Mike, it is snowing profusely outside. You might say the weather outside is frightful. It's nice to be sitting here next to you. I would be a stretch to say it's delightful. And with that Christmas jingle, we are going to be recording our final podcast of the year, in which we'll be summarizing some of our best tips and discussing the podcast throughout 2021. Good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you as well. Maybe I'll open by just saying, since our last podcast, we had a little bit of a lag there just with you on vacation. How was the month-long trip to Italy?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It exceeded expectations, probably the best way to describe it. And, I've just told a lot of our patients that I didn't really know that I needed a vacation until I was on vacation. And one of the interesting aspects with the pandemic, and I know you're the same, just the lack of opportunity to take a vacation has really meant that I have not taken time off. In fact, my manager was telling me only one day off for personal time since the start of the pandemic, or since we came back to work. So no, it was fantastic. I actually did record a webinar and gave a Zoom presentation while I was in Florence. The time change meant it was very, very late, but the trip was fantastic. Yeah. How have things been with you? Obviously, it's a busy time of year for us in dentistry. You were recently at the Dentsply Sirona Academy to give your first live course. Tell us about that course and how everything went for it.
It was good. It was really nice to see the academy, to get to see everybody there. We still were on a virtual program, but it was really nice to be at the academy, to see all the equipment, to see all the layouts, to get to see what we're going to be doing next year with the sim lab and how we're going to be able to do some live mannequin training and using those models that we're 3D printing for implant placement and hands-on courses. So I think 2022 is quite exciting, and I think as long as we keep this whole vaccination and these other variants at bay, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to thrive in 2022.
Yeah, I struggle to keep the steps for bonding zirconia and Emacs straight in my mind as it is. Now that we're incorporating all these Greek alphabet letters, I'm really, really struggling. So just information overload. In regards to 2022, our next podcast, we're going to be discussing a lot of the teaching and presentations that you and I are going to be giving next year. You'll be heavy in the CBCT and implant world. Looks like an exciting calendar. I saw that. And for me, it'll be heavy in the SureSmile world and the Cerec restorative aspect as well. And then excited to announce that you and I are getting our return back to PDC.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, just wasn't the same without you and I there last year. Obviously, the pandemic might have had something to do with that as well. Yeah. But excited to be getting back there. Let's move into discussing our year in review. Hard to believe how many podcasts we've actually done. We've had some fantastic guests. Adrian Maroli, Anthony D'Annunzio, Neki Jamal, who obviously with this Third Molar online program was a great guest to have. Josh Egebraten from the veterinary or the vet hospital from Minnesota.
Yeah.
What's the term that I'm looking for our American colleagues?
For
the hospital that he's working at.
Oh, he's at the VA.
The VA.
Yeah.
Yes. Not to be confused with animal dentistry. And then our good friend Valinder Dacey was here to discuss some zirconia bonding. Let's jump into it. So the highlights for me certainly would involve zirconia bonding. It's an exciting material. Dentsply Sirona has come out with their newest zirconia material as well, which with the Primescan and Primemill system works faster, stronger, more aesthetic. So I think that's an exciting part of dentistry moving forward, where we're having added strength and bondability. So that was something that was exciting for me. What about you?
I agree with that. Maybe on that topic, so that new zirconia that's coming out is a monolithic zirconia that has an internal shading, and it's 1,000 megapascal strength. And in that block, is it called the MT block?
Yeah, I believe it's called the MT block. It's not commercially yet available, but as we know, some of our key opinion leaders, Valinder Dacey have been demoing it. And so far, the reviews are great.
Yeah, I saw some of the pictures he posted. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, just review for everybody, when you're bonding your zirconia, what are the key steps that you're doing?
So the acronym or the three letters are APC. Essentially, you want to have an air abrasion unit, just light air abrasion to condition the intaglio surface. You want to have some sort of an ADP conditioning agent on the inside. So, Monobond makes one, and a few of the other companies do as well.
Like Z Prime.
Yeah, exactly. And that's obviously just going to create a surface that, along with the mechanical air abrasion aspect, will provide for some chemical adhesion. And then just a composite restorative cement.
Okay.
And obviously, any of the major manufacturers would make that. So that's the APC aspect with it. And that's essentially what we need. Those are the three external steps that are going to be a bit different than cementing zirconia for sure.
Yeah, I think it's been a game changer for a lot of people where they can actually still fabricate in tough areas conservative zirconia restorations, but still have them stay in place, right?
I think that's the big difference for me, is the aspect on conservative. Yeah. Especially when you're putting an indirect restoration in the tooth for the first time, there's a lot of healthy enamel. Cutting all that away, it just seems like it's antiquated dentistry.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what the more conservative preparations with bonding zirconia, what it leads to in the future.
Yeah. And for my, for me to push forward, and one of the other topics I found that has been a big one through 2022 is the concept of the digital exam. And the key that people have to understand is, in the digital exam, it's visual is far more easier than verbal for patients, or what they read or what they hear. They can comprehend on the visual side a lot faster and a lot more information. So literally, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we have to rethink the way we are doing our case presentations. And what we want to be doing is showing the patients the pictures, the images of the CBCT, so that they can see what we're seeing, understanding what we're thinking. But being able to see their own teeth is far more powerful than the old way of where we just tell them, we're looking in a little Explorer, we're picking away, you need a you have filling here, filling there, you need a crown, and you walk out. Those days are gone, and it's way more powerful for your patient to be able to see the CBCT with an implant planned than it is for them for you just to tell them, yeah, we can put an implant, I'll see you on Thursday. So I think the visualization, people have to realize that and add that to their armamentarium. And I believe that digital impressions have given us that ability to allow patients to visualize their teeth better.
Yeah, no, I would certainly agree. You do a great presentation on implant treatment planning and simultaneously doing case presentation. Prior to coming over here, we had a team meeting earlier just discussing some of the implant workflow, specifically Atlantis. I know you're a big Atlantis user, and I, as of late, have been doing a lot more with a lot of success. So we were walking through that with the team, and I was just discussing with my associate, they should really start to incorporate that comprehensive treatment planning diagnosis simultaneous session. So from the CBCT aspect, implant training, it's great. Obviously, for us, for the digital exam, the Primescan is the central part of that process. Yep. And even today, I had a husband-wife combination who came in from out of town to see us. And I'm finding that I'm not spending as much time on the photography, Mike. When you just have that toggling image or toggleable image on the Primescan, it's a fantastic piece of equipment for sure. So I know I would wholeheartedly agree with you. It's an exciting part of dentistry. For those of you who are not yet doing it, jump into it for sure.
Yeah, and I think we sometimes forget, we scan a patient to take a set of models, and we forget that we can actually use that as a demonstration piece, right? And I think that's important for us to remember. A lot of the things that we take for granted, that we see, that we understand, and as dental experts, what we're passing on to our patients see it all now too. They're on Instagram, they're on all the social platforms, and they can look it up on Google. So, you need to have them part of the process, right?
Yeah, no, I would wholeheartedly agree with that. So, one of the other highlights of our year, as I mentioned, Neki Jamal, not something that falls within my wheelhouse anymore, wisdom tooth extractions, but I'll never forget the quote, your flap is sloppy,
Yeah.
I think is the turning point for him. Interesting guy, very energetic, etc. Not a lot that the world of digital dentistry, with the exception of CBCT, is doing for wisdom teeth, though, Mike, is there?
No, I think just planning out the nerve, and to be able to appreciate the position of the tooth in the bone and with the nerve by using your CBCT is really the key there. But it was really interesting just to see, somebody that is teaching and training how they've incorporated the CBCT as the sort of the main hub for how they not only teach the wisdom teeth extraction, but how they perform it and plan it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And obviously leaning on technology is important. But one of the things that I really like about Necky's platform is that he's taken something that is fairly complex, something where a lot of dentists maybe have some trepidation to jump into. Obviously, you have a strong surgical background, but for those of us who don't, he's really just simplified that and broken it down into steps that give us that confidence. And I like that. Technology does that for me on a daily basis, but I like the fact that he took a complex surgical procedure with a bit of technology and broke that down. So he's not yet motivated me to get back into wisdom teeth extractions. It's still my associate's purview, but no, it was a great, energetic guest to have for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Another big one that we talked about in a couple of our sessions was digital planning for implants. And on that front, again, one of those processes is actually the consult and the case presentation, but also we've talked a lot about the key when it comes to implant planning, using your software, merging in the digital impression with the CBCT into something like Simplant or CCAD implant or Galaxis, and then being able to plan that implant so you can crown down approach it. You know where the crown's going to go, so you plan that implant for the center of the crown, center of the bone. And we've, one of the key things that we've talked about this year is the yellow line. And on the CCAD implant, the yellow line refers to the gingiva. So when you overlay the digital scan, you'll have a representation of the gingiva. And when you're looking at your cross section, you can see that line. Mm-hmm. And so one of the big things this year that we've been sort of passing on, and big trainers, like zero bone loss concepts and things like that have been harping on that implants need biologic width too. And that magic number is 3 to 4 millimeters. And so if you place an implant and you've only got 1 millimeter of tissue thickness above that implant, the bone will drop down in order to regain biologic width. So if you can, when you're doing your planning, if you can plan your implant position and placement based on that yellow line, and you can actually measure from that yellow line to the top of your implant to find out if you have 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, that's going to give you an idea. Do you have to go subcrestal? How far subcrestal do you have to go? If you're doing an immediate implant placement, where should you put it? And so following the gingival architecture, the adjacent teeth, I think has been a big help for the students that I've trained, and has been a big, actually a shift for helping people when they're planning implants, because everybody's looking at the crown or everybody's looking at the bone. And so I've been teaching people, look at that yellow line, look at the gingiva, and remember that you want the gingiva to be as even as possible, okay, with your implant position. So you don't have 1 millimeter here, and then at the lingual it's 6 millimeters mm-hmm. deep. Profile implants do help with that, and different angulations. But try to get uniform thickness of the gingiva. But let's try to be 3 to 4 millimeters of that yellow line. Now, there's a lot. If you can't do it and you're planning, the best thing about the planning is you haven't done anything yet. So when you're planning, you can figure out all the hurdles. Should you bone graft? Should you augment? So if you're running into these hurdles where the yellow line's not fitting, or there's not enough bone, or you've got sinus issues, now you plan B. How do I correct this? And that's the key about planning, right?
Yeah, totally. You want to obviously circumvent issues before they transpire. It's just incredible that we can utilize digital scanning technology to determine the depth of the gingiva over top of bone tissue and implant planning. No, it's the digital implant planning has been a big practice builder for us. As you know, you've been doing it for a lot longer than we have. And just how simplistic the technology has made it. It's a few computerized steps, but it's made that process pretty streamlined and easy for sure.
Yeah, when I tell patients, I say, look, I've already pretty much done it. I've just virtually placed your implant. So when I go to your mouth, it's that easy. It'll only take a few minutes. Patients are kind of blown away. Now, one of the other big topics, like I would say, when Adrian was on, he said it's the biggest growing market in the world, is aligner therapy. And, we happen to have an expert on aligner therapy here. And so you've been speaking a ton about SureSmile and about aligner therapy. Can you bring everybody up to speed where things are at right now? Because I know there were some updates coming or in process with the layout and the template board, like where you're the interface. So tell us where that's at right now, and what are some of the key things for people to think about with SureSmile?
Yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because one of the great things about SureSmile is the ability to add on adjunctive orthodontic treatments to treat more complex cases. Whether you're talking about inter-arch elastics, a Carrier appliance, a Crozat, etc. The software is more conducive to those advanced applications. The challenge for that, of course, is the advanced software is a bit onerous for a new user, especially for those of us who are accustomed to, Align Tech or Invisalign's ClinChecks, which is much more simplistic. So SureSmile and Dentsply Sirona has been working to make that more straightforward. It's not complex software, Mike, by any stretch of the imagination, but if you are perpetually an Apple user and I give you a Samsung phone, for the first couple days, you're going to be very, very annoyed and struggle with that. That's just human nature. What I really like about where SureSmile is going is it's really being geared towards, obviously still the advanced user, but they're doing a really good job of gearing towards people wanting to get into it. So a lot of our courses up until right now are things to avoid, which things to take on, which cases are going to be really straightforward, what your criteria for success is, and what you can do to maximize the orthodontic opportunities within your practice. It's gratifying work. Like implants are great. Wisdom tooth extractions, when it comes out, can be fantastic as well. But, that end result on an ortho result, 6 months later, 2 years later, 3 years at a recall later, you get that pride of accomplishment as a dentist. I'm not sure if you feel the same way when you see that the wisdom tooth hasn't grown back 2 years or 3 years later.
Fairly happy.
But that's one of the things that I really like about clear aligner therapy, and SureSmile just seems to be doing a lot in terms of making that more accessible to the everyday dentist and obviously those everyday patients. Next year at the Academy, we're going to be doing some level 2 or more advanced ortho seminars, which just involve more complex cases with some more expansion, closing the bite, obviously using more adjunctive treatments and just plastic. But I think it's a really exciting time. You're right, Adrian was saying it's the largest growing field in dentistry, over 36% growth year over year. Younger people are more interested in having healthy bites with straighter teeth, making hygiene easier. Everyone wants a nicer smile. So that trifecta combination works great. How has your journey been with it?
I would say I'm in the, I do like it, and I have an associate that does the complex stuff. I do want to take your level 2 course for sure, because I think that will be huge for me. I mean, I've taken the level 1 and 2 and some of the adjunctive courses with Invisalign as well, but I really want to see the more advanced programming features on the SureSmile. We've done a ton, like where I kind of get excited is when I can 3D print and make the aligners myself. So we do a lot of those for fun on like 5 or 6 tray cases or something like that, where I can get a patient done and we can make the models and we can do it ourselves. I find that kind of from a techno geeky manner really fun, and that's rewarding. Getting into the complex cases with elastics and that, Dr. Amanda Krivenchuk, who works with me, she's like a mad genius, and she'll do bracketing combined with aligners. So I just leave that to the expert. But I do want to learn more. And I really am looking forward to taking that level 2 course.
Yeah, it's offered. We've got 4 dates in Toronto next year, so I'm sure I can save you seat. I know a guy who knows a guy. So
Nice.
yeah. Well, speaking of the techno geek aspect, we just had a call from our friend Anthony D'Annunzio right before we started recording, asking about some 3D printing questions. So where do you see the world of 3D printing going for you specifically within your dental office for next year, Mike?
I think right now we're using the 3D printer for applications of the Essex retainers, models, the do-it-yourself, the Sure Smile. I think I would like to dabble into. I think what I'd like to be able to do is and I've been playing around with the InLab, and I'd like to get to where I can make an upper 3D printed denture prosthetic that I'm relining on a set of implants, and I can do that all in office. Yes, I can have Eunice, love those guys, and I can have them fabricate that for me. But if I could do it in office off the InLab software, just again from that 3D printing geek manner, I think it would be pretty cool that you can do that.
Yeah, it's a huge, obviously, service to patients, some cost-saving measures from that component as well. And then, from a transitional restorative perspective where you're having to do, relines or tissue conditioning, et cetera, I can obviously see the benefit for that. We did a little bit of denture training together. I must have been a year ago in your office. It's way beyond my area of expertise. But for some of the complex implants that you're placing, I can see there being some applications. For us, really, it'll be waiting for Cerec Guide 3 and easy printing application, and then more specifically getting into just more Sure Smile printing. I think we've got that system down pat. It is time consuming, there's no doubt from that perspective, but we are taking on some more and more complex cases. And I have to say, Mike, I'm not noticing any difference from the aligners that we're fabricating versus the ones that are coming from any of the companies.
Nice. Yeah.
So obviously exciting from that perspective.
And are you guys using the Drufo mat?
We are.
Yeah. Same with us.
Yeah. And anything short of the Drufo-mat, the quality is just going to be inferior.
Yeah.
And I think the nuanced aspect with the Drufo-mat, especially with the air system coming into it, makes just a huge difference. Don't ask me how to use it.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how to spell Drufo-mat either, or who Dr. Drufo-mat was. But no, it's a great system from that perspective.
Yeah, and don't ask me to carry it around the office.
That's right. It's a robust unit, there's no doubt.
So another guest we had was Dr. Amrish Khanna from Calgary here, and in his talk, and he had his brother his brother Vic with him as well. And their talk was on team culture. And I think some of the takeaways from that was the importance of the team huddle, the importance of using your software in your office to generate snapshots of your patient, to be able to have those discussions, to be able to go into your rooms more prepared, to know which technologies you're going to need in which rooms, to be able to present to your patients and have that open communication. But I think one of the things that I took away from that was that the huddle's not just about the patients. It's actually more about the team, and that Monday morning huddle is about how the team is and centering the team, because COVID has been stressful, and centering the team, focusing on the team, focusing on how their weekends were, focusing on what people's goals are, making sure everybody's goals are on the same pathway. And I think that has been really exciting for me, is that sometimes you just have to get defocused off of dentistry and more focused on your team. And so you had talked to me about the coffee chat, and so we've implemented that, and I think that has been a big one for us.
Yeah.
Just the morale boost and keeping everybody on the same frame of mind. And I don't think you can ever underestimate the power of what you put into your team is what you get out of it in your practice.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very, very good point. Obviously, we've heard for years and years, investing in your team, spending the time to take them on courses and to educate them and ensure that they understand what your motivations are on these courses. So when you come back, everyone's on the same page. But I think it does go further than that. And the pandemic has really brought into contrast the difference between dental education and team culture building. And it's been challenging. The Monday morning coffee was sort of fantastic for us getting back from COVID. We're looking to do some more, cut the day short and do some team building or team meetings at the end of our shorter days and kind of continue on with that. And then, you also have to be really cognizant of people's time. I think there's more challenges in people's home life as well. So I'm excited to get back to traveling where we can do maybe a bit more team education. We are still trying to strategize and come up with any new great ideas to continue team development as well. I think that it will be a central point with dental offices moving forward. We all know across North America that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, whether it's dental, whether it's tech, hiring is challenging. And so incentivizing and motivating and keeping your team engaged, I think, is intrinsic to any business, and especially in one that's as challenging and stressful as dentistry can be, right? So, yeah, for sure. And then alcohol helps, right?
It always works.
You and I are in a WhatsApp group chat that discusses sleep apnea. You're a very active participant in it, and I need to do a bit more to chime in with my 2 cents. But discuss where the concepts of sleep apnea treatment are going. It's obviously been a big part of both of our practices, and really, if not the thing that we get the most positive feedback on from patients, especially male patients, it's right up there at the top. So what's coming down the pipeline, Mike?
Well, there's been some, algorithm shifts, with a lot of people are using the Matrix users. And so currently right now that technology is on hold. There is a group, we're trying to resurrect that and bring that technology back to the market. So, we're fingers crossed that we can bring that back and people can start using that technology to figure out who responders are and positional. So there's been a bit of a change where we've had to look at other options. And so what some people are doing from an algorithm perspective is, you'll have your cases that are mild sleep apnea cases, low AHIs, primary snoring. You're pretty safe to go into your appliance and titrate and check and confirm efficacy. But on the more comprehensive cases, what we're trying to do is say, okay, well, we're going to still want some sort of theragnostic information. So how can we do that? And so what we've been doing is fabricating trial appliances, and we just do like a one-night test without and a one-night test at a 50% protrusion, and just follow and then we send it for our report. And then we have the sleep physician who sees, okay, what's happening at day 0 and what's happening with nothing in their mouth, and what's happening when they have an oral appliance. And they can kind of feed back in their report if they feel that that's going to be a successful route. So I still like the idea on a case that is a bit more comprehensive to do a little test before I have the patient incur that cost. And I'd say that's where we're at, using the airway scans, looking at airways, keeping an eye on adjunctive care like sinuses and air, being able to move air, and on a lot of the adjunctive things that we can recommend to patients. And that's kind of where we're at, also getting patients more aware. And I think health is becoming a bigger factor for people through the pandemic. They're not traveling as much, so they're trying to look after themselves. And so I think more people are focusing on their health. Yeah,
exciting times, certainly. I hope that the predictive aspect of the Matrix diagnostic test gets back online. It's just we discuss predictability and accurate outcomes, and that's a device that certainly helped enable us to get sleep dialed in and done properly right from the get-go. So fingers crossed that we get that relaunched. Another aspect, we discussed Cerec, especially earlier on in the year. I'm actually heading to Phoenix next week to head to the CDOC Center in Scottsdale to help with a level 2 course. Dan Butterman's going to be leading it, so you always pick up on some great pearls of wisdom with him leading a course. In terms of that aspect, and it's an exciting world with Cerec, especially with all of the new restorative materials that are coming out. It's a plethora of them. Some of them can be overwhelming to the uninitiated. But excited to see what some of the new softwares have to hold, especially in the implant and anterior aesthetics world. Any thoughts for you on where you're taking your Cerec restorative journey?
No, I do like the idea of incorporating the like a digital wax up more often and doing it faster. So I can add that into my presentation workflows and into new patients, and so be able to give somebody a rapid mock-up of an anterior case is something we're playing around with the software, trying to do that quicker. You've given me a few tips on that, so outlining just sort of a phantom margin and not going all the way to the gum line, but just taking it over the height of contour, and then boom, give yourself the proposal, and then you're able to take a look at that quite quickly. And I've even done where we've 3D printed the before model and 3D printed the wax up, because then somebody have something to hold in their hand. Yeah. And so that's pretty cool. So I think that's a real cool piece, is the being able to digitally do the cosmetic planning. And then otherwise, like you said, it's the advancements that are coming in the guides, and the being able to do, I think, being able to 3D print Cerec Guide 3 will be a big feature that I think will be out in 2022. Check software, hopefully that'll finally become available. That's kind of where it's at for me there. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see what the world of Cerec restorative dentistry has to hold. And big aspect for our Primescan, and one of the online webinars that I'm giving is related to using the Primescan as a diagnostic tool for digital occlusion. Yep. I can't even remember the last time RT scan came out of its little cubby area. It's been fantastic from that perspective. And so, a big part of what we're doing with the Sure Smile presentations as well is utilizing that Primescan scanning technology to show through co-discovery where the improvements can be made for a patient. And one of the primary aspects is heavy bite, or an imbalanced bite. So, and obviously big for your the implant world for you as well. Yeah, and like I said, the digital exam side, showing your patient how their bite is, planning for TMJ or occlusion issues or wear cases, looking at the wear patterns on their teeth. It's amazing how much you see, and it's also amazing as you start to get re-excited about occlusion and stuff, and when you're using this and the visualization of seeing the red and the wear and that prompts you much faster into looking at these complex cases. And when you're missing those complex planning, or you get a case that, let's say, came out of hygiene, patient needed a filling and then ended up getting booked with you. And then it's funny when some of these harder things that look easy, they end up being harder. And you look back at that scan and you look at the bite and you're like, well, that's the problem. Yeah. We've got some fundamental issues, and it really brings you back to thinking more comprehensive again with our patients and taking that time. And I've noticed COVID's helped. So we're not just like triaging as much, and we're really taking the patients that are walking in and having time so that we're able to go comprehensive. We're able to look at those. So I think that's been really good. Vish, I think the last thing that I had on our list to touch on that was new this year was the Tessera crown. Mm-hmm. So give me your take on that new crown.
It's a cool material, obviously, especially if you have the entire workflow with the speed fire oven and the Primemill. Obviously a lot of strength, a little bit more radiopaque than Emax, but stronger. And I'll tell you, the marginal finishing on it, Mike, is fantastic. Like Zirconia is sort of a next level with cutting into carbide, using carbide burrs, cutting into a softer green face material. But it's been really good. Dentsply Sirona has doubled down, obviously, on the materials in the last little while, and I'm excited to see what else is coming down. But no, I really like Tessera. I'm a big lithium disilicate user, so this falls right in with that aspect. So between Zirconia and lithium disilicate, that is 99% of what we're doing right now. So I've been happy with it. What's your experience been so far?
Same thing. We've had good success. You can feel the strength when you're adjusting them, but yet it's still nice to adjust. And so far we've placed quite a few of them over the year, probably about 40-50 of them. Yeah. And we haven't had any it's early, but we haven't had any issues, debonding, fractures, or any problems to date. We've done some anterior cases, and you really need the HT for those.
Yeah.
Even the HT is a little more opaque than an HT Emax, so you have to be a bit cautious about that. And then the MT is, I think, if you're gonna go over a root canal tooth or darker tooth, MT is more than enough. I don't think you really need the LT very much. In my hands, it's the MT and the HT. MT can be a workhorse in the posteriors per se, and then HT in the anterior. And I know there are some shades that are not yet, they're in MT but not in HT.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think it's B1 is not yet available in HT. So some of those are coming. And I mean, it's a new product, and that's to be expected.
Well, and there's supply chain issues, all over the world. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, Mike, whether you're in dental or, whether you're on Santa's naughty or definitely his nice list. That certainly happens. We're going to wrap up our podcast on that aspect. You were discussing digital occlusion, the red heavy spot, and it just made me think of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So I think we're due for a rum and eggnog, and this would be a perfect time to sign off. Wish everyone a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year, and we'll see you in the new year.
And watch out for the green face. You guys take care. Please like or subscribe below, and Digital Workflow Dentistry is our Instagram handle, and digitalworkflowdentist.com is our website. And on our Instagram is the best place to find all the upcoming lectures that we are going to be doing in 2022. And that reminds me that I need to sit down and post all those.
Yeah.
But everybody take care, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thanks.